Dolphins fans, if you remember last week on a video, I said whoever commented the one thing the most gets a shout out on the next week. And guess what? We have our winner. My guy, Hot Dog VK3LB, commented 29 times on that specific video last week. It was record prediction, by the way. I want to know if anyone is going to top Mr. Hot Dog. So if you want to beat him and get a shout out later on in the week, type your MIAs. All right, I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. And on today's show, we're going to look at some OTA takeaways. The Dolphins OTAs started on Monday, and after 2 practices, we do have a little football to actually talk about, some news as well. So, very fun show on tap with us today. And I think we got to start with the quarterback, as it always is, right? Everyone cares about what's going on with Tua, and I want to look specifically at his attendance, because a lot was made of Tua's attendance. Would he show up? Would he not show up because of the contract? Not dispute, but just rumors and negativity surrounding a possible extension. I do think it gets done, but a lot was obviously made about if Tua was going to show up to OTAs or not. Well, he went 1 for 2 through 2 days, and I'll explain why it's not a big deal, but he was there front and center on day 1. Look at this photo that the Dolphins social media shared. Look at the lefty just slinging it. Still wearing that camera above, by the way, so get to see what Tua sees on the practice field. I think that is very, very cool. But there was, to me, no doubt about Tagovailoa showing up to OTAs. I know CBS Sports dropped that little nugget, and Jeremy Fowler talked about the contracts rejection, if you will, that Tua had about a while ago. There was never a doubt that he was going to attend OTAs. He was not going to hold out. But I will say this, Tua was not at practice today, but calm down, everyone. It's not that big of a deal. There is a reason why Tua was not there. Cameron Wolfe had the report that Tua was not going to be there. It's not contract related. He just had a previously scheduled commitment, and he communicated it with Coach Mike McDaniel. Tua is actually at Nick Saban's, his former collegiate coach, charity golf tournament, and then obviously he was there for day 1. I didn't want to put this out. I don't want to go full Aaron Rodgers because F Aaron Rodgers, he's with the Jets, but relax, folks. I know maybe a lot of you guys don't care if Tua is there, if Tua is not there, but there are some people that do. And for the people that do care where Tua is and if he is at practice or not, I just got to tell you guys to RELAX. Tua is going to be here for mandatory minicamp. He's going to be there for training camp in July in the preseason. He's going to be there for the regular season as well. So I am not making any big deal if he misses practices, if he is at practices during OTAs. You obviously like him to be there, but I don't think it will impact how he plays on the field on Sundays in this upcoming fall. I'm just happy that Tua is at least there for one of the days. All right, takeaway number 2. Couple defensive players flash for Miami. Linebacker David Long Jr. and cornerback Kader Kohou. Why did these 2 guys flash? Well, they actually earned the 2 orange jerseys to open up off-season practices. And if you're asking, Nick, what does an orange jersey mean? Well, let me refresh your memory if you didn't know, or just let you know what it is. The Dolphins give out an orange practice jersey to the player who had the best practice the previous day. You also get to choose the music for the following practice. David Long Jr. repped the orange jersey on Monday, the first day, and then Kader Kohou must have had a really good practice on Monday. Media wasn't allowed at that one, by the way, because he was rocking it on Tuesday's practice. But let's talk about David Long Jr., because I think he's going to be fantastic for Anthony Weaver's defense in 2024, and Mike McDaniel agrees. He said that he embodies a lot of the right things. That's why he's got the first orange jersey. David Long Jr. felt that after last season he could do more, and McDaniel said he is a fantastic leader. And I am excited for David Long's year 2 in this Dolphins defense. Different scheme, obviously, with Anthony Weaver coming over from that Baltimore Ravens style defense rather than Vic Fangio. But he did a lot of good things for Miami a season ago, totaling 113 tackles. And I think he's got the athleticism to be a top-tier coverage linebacker in the National Football League as well. I think him and Jordan Brooks are going to be one of the best 1-2 punches at linebacker this season. And especially under Anthony Weaver, I am pumped for this linebacker group in that middle of the defense. Before we move on to Kader Kohou, how good do you think the Dolphins defense actually is, though? Give me a scale from 1 to 10. A lot of people are skeptical because you lost Christian Wilkins, don't have Xavier Howard no more. The depth in the secondary is a little iffy, but I'm giving it a 7-7, baby. This is going to be one of the best defenses in the NFL, and I would give it a top 10 grade. Let's talk about Kader Kohou now, because he is going to have to play big for Miami in 2024 if this defense wants to be amongst the top 10 that I think it can be, because this quarterback room is very top-heavy, but the depth is very sketchy. Jalen Ramsey and Kendall Fuller are your outside corners, but Ramsey could go inside. He could even play a little safety role if he absolutely needed to. Your top two guys are fine, and I think Fuller replacing Xavier Howard is a fine guy. But Kader Kohou, he is going to have to bounce back in a big way in that nickel cornerback position. He was an undrafted free agent, Darth Kader, as we call him. He was good in his rookie season, but not as good last year. Let's see if he bounces back in year 3 with a solid year in the nickel, because if you look at the group behind him, it's not that great. Neal coming over from Buffalo, UDFA, Isaiah Johnson from Syracuse, but then you also have Cam Smith and Nick Needham as two depth guys as well, but Needham might be playing in the safety group, so maybe Storm Duck, Ethan Bonner, who knows, but all I know is that the depth behind these top 3 guys aren't that great, so they're going to have to stay healthy and play their best ball if the Dolphins want to have a top-tier secondary in the NFL. Which actually takes us to this third takeaway. Cam Smith, is he going to break out? The second-year player out of South Carolina who was a second-round pick just a year ago. Is he going to have a better season after basically being non-existent his rookie year? Well, Mike McDaniel actually commented on Cam Smith's development this offseason, and he said those timelines are unique to each individual. Cam Smith is not satisfied with his rookie year, and neither is the organization. So there's an expectation that he is going to have a better year. And under Vic Fangio just a season ago, I know the defensive players don't feel too good about what Vic was doing and how he treated them, but Smith was non-existent at all. He barely showed up on the field, and when he did, he didn't do much, only totaled 2 tackles and obviously no INTs or PBUs a year ago, but he was taken in the top 55 in the draft a year ago. He needs to prove why this front office and Chris Grier drafted him in the second round. I was a fan of Cam Smith a year ago, and our own draft expert Tom Downey actually thought he could have been a first-round pick in that late 20s, maybe one of those 330 picks as well, but I evidently fell to Miami in the 50s, and I liked the pick at the time. He's just going to have to prove his worth, and as I mentioned with Kohou, the depth in this cornerback room is not that great, but if Cam Smith is able to elevate his play and prove to be a top 2-round selection, well, then you got some depth to work with in this room. All right, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're going to have everything covered on the Miami Dolphins this offseason leading into training camp and the regular season. And if you want a more in-depth look and breakdown of how Dolphins practice went on Tuesday, because they are off tomorrow on Wednesday, we'll drop a video tomorrow breaking down the entire second practice of Dolphins OTAs. Goal is 20 subs. We get there on today's video, we'll drop it tomorrow. All right, fourth takeaway from the first 2 days is that Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are just going to ease their way back from injury. The top 2 edges for Miami obviously suffered a torn Achilles and Jalen Phillips a year ago against the Jets. Bradley Chubb working his way back from injury. That's the best edge group in the NFL and best duo if you ask me, but they are recovering from injuries. They're going to have to take some time. Mike McDaniel said the Dolphins are going to be very mindful of how those 2 returns from injuries, and they'll be walking through the defense, standing on the side. Like, they'll be there at practice, watching, seeing how Anthony Weaver wants to direct this new scheme, as it's going to be much different than Vic Fangio's a year ago. But those 2 are going to ease their way back in, and hopefully they will be back and ready for week 1 against the Jaguars in September. But if not, this is why the Dolphins double-dipped at edge in the NFL draft. I know a lot of people were questioning why they took Chop Robinson and Mohamed Kamara, and obviously the first round and the 5th round, but these are the reasons why. You're not so sure when those 2 are going to return and if they're going to be fully healthy come September, so at least you have depth, which we'll continue the conversation, talk about in just a second. But make sure you are hooked up with some Dolphins gear. This shirt combo, we flashed it on Monday's episode as well. It was $20 off. Now just $15 off. That's what happens when you don't strike when the iron's hot. Get it right now, chatsports.com/Dolphins combo. I'll be kind enough to put that link in the description and comments of today's video. But how about this nice 2-pack combo of Dolphins tees, the orange, the aqua? I got mine on the way right now. Get yours. One more time, chatsports.com/Dolphins combo. Yeah, but I do want to revisit Chop Robinson and Mo Kamara because they will be called upon early and often. And like I mentioned, there was some hesitation on why the Dolphins took Mo Kamara in the 5th round after already taking Chop with the 21st overall pick. But even if Phillips and Chubb aren't ready to go week 1, but I still have faith that the top 3 edges for Miami are going to be able to generate some pressure because they signed Shaq Barrett in free agency coming over from Tampa. And then you got the 2 rookies who showcase toughness and athleticism that will be valuable for this Dolphins D. And when you get everyone back healthy, you're going to have a 5-man lineup at that edge group that is the most deep and most versatile. I am just a big fan of this edge group and pass rushing depth chart for Miami. I expect Anthony Weaver to dial up a lot of sacks, and we saw it a year ago. We flashed the stats up on a prior video that Ravens defense had 4 guys get 4 or 5 sacks each last season. I expect that to be the case for Miami once again. All right, to round out today's video, joint practice announcements for the Dolphins. Mike McDaniel dropped this nugget to reporters. Cameron Wolfe had it, that they will be holding, as the Dolphins are, 4 joint practices with all of their preseason opponents. 2 with the Falcons, 1 with the Commanders, and 1 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those are the 3 preseason opponents, if you will, of Miami this season. And if you're wondering why it's 2-1-1, well, you're only allowed 4 joint practices in training camp by the NFL, so they choose 2 with Atlanta, which is the first preseason game, by the way. So August 9th is a Friday, will be when they play Atlanta in week 1 of the preseason. They'll have 2 joint practices prior to that, and then they'll have 1 prior to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Washington Commanders preseason games as well. I'm a big fan of joint practices because, when you're playing in that hot summer of July and August, you're going to get fed up with your own teammates at times, and some scuffles will break out. But this time you get to actually go up against some other teams and see how they play and how you stack up against those defenses and offenses. All right, that will do it for today's video. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're going to have everything covered surrounding the Miami Dolphins. And as I mentioned in the middle of the video, we get 20 subs on today's show. We will have a video tomorrow breaking down the Dolphins' second practice of OTAs. So hit that sub button. I'll see you tomorrow. Go Fins.